I'll just give you slides to give you an idea who we are, CNH Industrial, and what do we do, and how do we drive our transformation. So this is some of the product line that we have in our portfolio, very diversified. Go back, I didn't learn, that's it, good. So as you see, we have buses, trucks, firefighting machine, military vehicles, tractors combined, small excavators, 70, 80 tons, and we build all that stuff. We have about 64 factories around the world, and that's what we produce. I'll start from the bottom. So CNH Industrial basically was created as a new company. 3 years ago, it moved from Fiat Industrial that had 3 different companies that were managed in a very separate way. We moved in a way that we're working together under one wing. Before that, CNH Global, which was about $8 billion company, was mainly 2 companies, which is New Holland and the Case IH brand. And before that, there was Ford and Fiat Tractor that merged together to create the New Holland. So what you see here, basically, the reason that I'm showing this slide is to show you we have huge complexity. We're coming from over 55 different companies that were put together, and each one of those companies put their own system and their own processes in place. Today we are a very simple business. If you see the 5 different parts, so we have agriculture equipment, construction equipment, commercial vehicle with all their different brands below, and then the powertrain. The powertrain is basically all the engine, or most of the engine that we're using in our production are built by the powertrain, and then we're selling it as a separate business, and of course the financial services for the CNH Industrial customer, which is really our own financing arm, if you wish. We are one company, and we have 12 brands. I'm not going to read it all. Close to 63,000 employees the end of last year, short of $25 billion in revenue. So there is a very, very, very large company. We are all over the world. We are global. We're selling our product almost on each continent and in many, many countries with all the complexities and regulation that you have in each country. A product that's sold in one destination, in one country, is not necessarily the same product as you sell another one due to safety regulation and due to all the other local regulation that you need to follow. So you really need to keep up to speed and understand what do you make and where is it going. A huge part of our job in the company is in the sustainability. Sustainability is one of the most important part that we are driving in every part of our business, whether it's in the factories or outside the factories, in our suppliers or through our logistic process. What we do basically, we have a huge growth in different drivers, whether it's the trucks that were built, we'll show you later, the product that we're building, and what we're doing. So the part of sustainability, I cannot emphasize enough how much we're working to drive it forward. One of the products that we're very proud of that launched recently, a couple of years ago in Europe, is the LNG vehicle. An LNG truck, which is liquefied natural gas, has a huge contribution to the different pollutant that you have, so it's much more clean. People process system is what we're saying. So basically what we our short history from 2004 is basically we insourced the different logistic operation worldwide, step by step, and we needed something to do it. We couldn't do it without any tools, and we didn't have tools because everything was outsourced, and we didn't control the business in a very good way because we didn't know how to do that. This is some of the spaghetti, some of the key lanes of the product. So, this is for me a job security, and so what I'm normally saying is we're building our product on all the wrong continents, and then we need to move them. And the reality is really that you have a core competence in each factory, in each location, and then from there, in order to have this niche product moving around the world, you need a very good, strong, robust system of roll-on, roll-off containers or others to move it around the world. The process that we took in order to be able to control our destiny started about 10 years ago, and you see the track and trace stuff that we took, the backbone, the GT Nexus backbone, is something that we implemented. And we had a lot of challenges. The panel before, a lot of great stuff that you guys heard from them all was applicable to the stuff we did. How do you define what you do? How do you get a project on a global scale that understands the business enough? How do you create the change management? What is the outcome that you want from this particular system? So it was a very, very, very challenging time because we met globally with a lot of the stakeholders, and each one has a different view until we were able to come together and agree how we're going to move forward. After that, we put some contracting, the ocean and air contracting by GT Nexus, transport management, supplier portal integration, and then the push-pull process that we changed for all our inbound. In the past, all the suppliers used to push their stuff to our factories. Some of it was the stuff we needed. Other stuff was the requirement for the next week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, but we were missing 20 parts that we needed for this week production. And we changed that by saying, you know what, guys, let's work with a portal. We'll show you what we need a year and a half out. We'll show you what's the frozen period, but then we're going to agree with our plant how we're going to pick up that stuff and when we're going to pick it up. So it depends on the definition of the material. We'll pick it up weekly, daily, bi-weekly, or whatever the process is. A full truckload, is less than a truckload, is a container, is air shipment, and so on and so forth. Later, we put the commercial vehicle track and trace in place, so that's recently, and now we're working on the powertrain. So everything we did in the past on CNH, basically, we made a quote-unquote a simple decision to deploy all those processes on the same organization because our team, the backbone of the team, basically is doing the job for all the rest of the business, and we're trying to do it in one way, in one system, in one process. In the control tower, we have many, many kind of inputs of a lot of stuff that's going in, and then we want to look at it, And what is that control tower? Basically, some of the screen, just as a nice screen to show you, that's how we control all our ocean containers worldwide. Which one is on time according to how many of them are on time based on the contractual agreement, or how clean is the data that we're getting into this process. So this is some stuff that we've put together, and that's just an example of the ocean control tower. What we're looking to improve and build around it is more different kind about sustainability, risk analysis, market analysis, the normal KPIs that you all know, inventory monitoring, and proactive execution. And we have few words of what we're trying to achieve with each one of those. And this is basically stage one. When we will get all that, then we'll think what else we want and what else we want to add to go forward. That's basically who we are.
All right. Now the fun part. Have a seat. Don't sit on the microphone here.
I should not sit on the microphone.
Yeah. So now, we promised each other we'd be nice to each other up here. Dror and I, we've been bantering. He's been threatening to embarrass me, and I've been threatening to embarrass him.
I'm always nice to you.
You keep it PG, okay? You talked about, you kind of covered very quickly your control tower strategy and vision. And you can go to a supply chain conference anywhere, and everybody's talking about control towers. All the vendors are talking about control towers. And you've obviously got a vision that you're executing against. You're not all the way there, obviously, but can you share a little bit about your vision in terms of what you want this thing to become, in the next couple of years, in the foreseeable future?
Right. We want to see what's going on. There are many, many different kind of control towers. You can control what you want to control, and you select what are the important parts. So for us, something very simple is the KPIs. KPIs is something that we have today, It's done in a separate, different way. It's done on many, many different manual processes. We want to bring it up, and we want to make sure it's transparent with our providers. Today we send our provider all our providers every couple of weeks the information, and then monthly they have the full summary, and then every quarter there's the QBR. If you do the information and collect the information and your provider don't see that information, there's a huge, huge miss over there. You say you're here, they say they're there. Data, as we heard in the previous session and the whole 3 days, needs to be clean. It's not always clean, surprise, surprise. It's much better than what it used to be, but you ship the stuff and there's a holiday in one of the countries, continent, France again is on the 14th, or there's a weekend that you can't drive or other. Do you need to modify the KPI? Yes, you do. So this is one thing. The other thing is proactive execution. We want to see from all the backbone that we have with GT Nexus, with all the effort that we put everything connected, we want to see what's going to go wrong if we can before it goes wrong. After it goes wrong, fine. All of us can try and figure out what's the next departure, do we have enough for air freight? If you're able to figure out that it hasn't been booked or a certain milestone that didn't happen, and you catch it before, I think that's the real, quote unquote, the real heroic action that we can do today with the age of technology. Sustainability. We worldwide monitor every lane, every track, every unit or spare parts that we ship, whether it's going to our manufacturing facilities, where it's going a finished good to a customer, is it a spare part to the inbound depot or outbound? What's our footprint? What's our carbon footprint? And you can add many other, particular footprint or any other. How do you automate it in order to be able to see it? I'm sitting every week on a sourcing committee that we are running to decide which business is going to be awarded to which supplier. How do we add in the correct way the sustainability factor to see it up front and the difference between provider to provider? So those are some of the points we're working on today. And as soon as we will achieve it, we'll add other stuff, and so it's an interesting process. It's a very long process.
Right. Now, do you expose your control tower to your executives, or do you use the control tower to communicate with them? In other words, is there an executive version of it, or do you use it to keep them informed of what's going on?
Today we have one version, but as we discussed earlier, there is an executive version that will come later on, which is the financial version, and there is the operational level screen to say, make sure that those bookings will happen because those are your 10 exceptions. So yes, there will be different views and different accesses to different people based on what they want to know. Some of the control tower is just information. The other part is really, really operational. And you want to distinguish between the two and give the right access to the right people to be able to take the right action. Right.
So you told me a story earlier today. We were talking, again, this is an event that most of the people in the room are very familiar with, was the Hanjin bankruptcy that happened last fall. And, I read an article, just checked something today, and, Samsung, I think, reported $38 million of inventory was stuck on 2 ships, just to give you an idea of just how much stuff is being moved on the water. And that affected you clearly. Can you walk through that and how you use a control tower to first address it, tell your executives, just a little story about what you did during that time?
Within an hour of the news, I got a mail from the CEO saying, what's the impact for CNH Industrial? And because we had the backbone, the GT Nexus, the trackability, the tracing, it took a very short time, 15 minutes with a couple coffees in between, to get all the inbound, outbound flows that we have on the container that we managed and that our providers managed. And we knew exactly each container where it was. Some containers were not loaded, some were already loaded, some were offloaded. And then we were able to, one, give the answer, how many containers, how much money, which product, is it inbound, spare parts, or outbound material? We had all 3 of them. And from there, we were able to take the necessary action. Containers that were not loaded, we needed to take the stuff, either buy the containers or offload the material, because there were some legal issues that you can't use the container of Hanjin because there's a legal process. So, You either buy it or offload it and put it in another container. Some stuff we pushed through to delivery, what arrived to the ports, and the other stuff was stuck on the ocean because if you guys remember, it took a couple of weeks for the countries, for the legal system in the countries to assure Hanjin that they will not put a lien on the product, and then we really had to wait like everybody else, but we knew what was there, so my team informed each production or each commercial what's the status, and together we made a decision, do we need to air freight, do we have enough inventory, can we communicate to the customer what the action that needs to take. Now, you gave the Hanjin as a Hanjin, but it's not, if we wouldn't have the information on a system, probably would take us a couple weeks calling our worldwide team to go look through their bill of lading one by one and try to figure out what was shipped. So it's not the Hanjin issue. If you have the structure, you can look at the information in any event, in anything that goes wrong, you can see where your stuff is.
Right. And obviously this is about, keeping plants running and making sure that customers are getting the products they want. How does your team, your organization help with inventory and planners and some of the other aspects of the CNH operation?
You need to look always who's your internal, external customer. So in the case of the inbound material, the 64 plants, and each plant has their own planners, the planners are the customer. I don't need to see my team, whether it's the global team or the central team, doesn't need to see and look each one of those pieces of information because it doesn't mean anything to us. The planner at the plant knows exactly per part number what does he need and when does he need it. And together we communicate. When they highlight that there's an issue or a challenge, we are in contact and they say, well, can you change it? Can you do something different? So those are the relationship. The same with the parts organization. The management planning, the material planning of the spare parts will be the one that will tell you what do you need to expedite right away to bring it to the DC because there are X number of open orders, and what can you hold on secondary. So the prioritization is very important for the workflow of that particular DC or for the fulfillment of the spare part to the customers. And of course the finished good, from customer to customer, the requirements are very, very different. You need to bring the stuff on time, and if you can't, at least you can tell what's happening and when it's coming. Right.
Is your customer service group tethered into this? So when they get a call from someone saying, where's my fire truck? Are they calling you, or how's that?
Luckily, no, I left my phone with Jose Luis. But it's all on the system. They can see where the stuff is. From the moment it's dispatched all the way to the customer, they can see. And if there are exceptional events, we're updating it on the portal, so the customer service team have a very limited job. They have the job when something goes wrong. They need to figure out with the service provider what can be done and immediately inform the customer online or by a phone call or both. If you know that something is wrong, you update it, but then you communicate with the commercial team how to inform the customer what's the latest information.
Right. So on Monday, we had Georgia Raitt up here from Rockport talking about how she had to kind of spin up a company, basically an operation in 2 years because they got came out of Adidas. You grew through the opposite, right? Where you are acquiring companies all the time. Can you talk a little bit about kind of the reverse of the Rockport story? Because you're acquiring companies and you have to stand up a new supply chain.
I need to look at your notes. I think we agreed you will not ask me that question.
Oh no, I agreed. We agreed. You wanted that one. You forced me to write that on here. There's one written, and it says, "Ask about adding business to the supply chain." This is what you
basically the process is the same. If your backbone of information, if you agree what's the backbone of information, you need to go through the change management to the different businesses, and then you need to board them on the same process and system. But again, the change management is very important because there's a lot of resistance at the beginning. Everybody says my system is better. And it's really depending the supply chain who has the credibility. But you don't do it by force. You don't do it because I said so. You're doing it because it makes sense. Now, make sense is something that is what makes sense to you doesn't make sense to me, or the other way around. So you really need to sit with the team and show them why is it so much better to do it that way. The good news is if you have technology versus no technology, the argument is very simple, because you say, I can show you where your stuff is any given time, you can't. The discussion becomes to be very, very short. Now, do you pick the material, or do you let your supplier deliver it? Do you control the transportation, or do you let your supplier deliver it? Our approach today, 70% or more, unless it's stuff we don't want to touch, whether it's tires or flammable or chemicals that you don't want to put into your normal transportation and logistic process, you really want to control it. If you control it, you put it in your system, you know where it is, you know what's happening, and it's way and beyond negotiating volume to get the best price. Fine, you can do it this way or the other way. Sometimes your provider will have a better rate than you, but the control on the material gives you the knowledge, gives you the power, gives you the information to give the correct service and to do what you need. And if you have a change, it is in your hand with your providers directly to create the change. Life is so much easier. If you need to start look who called who and which transport company is carrying your material to that plant, it's very, very difficult. And especially if you have subcontractors or multimodal or very long lane, life can be very miserable. But if you're doing it yourself, you know 100% what you're doing, it's in your control. Then you can ensure that you have compliance, then you can ensure that you have service, then you can ensure that you're doing the job in the best way you can. Because you measure it, you manage it, and then you can improve it. Right.
Now, as you look out many years, what are you seeing that's interesting to you, or what's kind of that perfect future state that you are trying to get to before you retire in 2 years or whatever?
No, I retired already. But
oh, did you? Okay.
The world is full today with the Internet of Things, prediction, analysis. Some of the companies in this session that we've seen that Infor purchased is doing a lot of that stuff. I think what we need to see is where does it become really practical, I believe that the Internet of Things is something incredible. It's bigger than big, and a lot of us are in it. We hear a lot of things, but what is it the specific need that it will give us? Will I be able to see via a security camera tomorrow that will give me the information that my container has been unloaded from the vessel at 21:05? Would that help me to get it half an hour earlier? Yes or no? So, those are the things that we need to understand, how the technology can really add a specific value in order to improve how we're going forward. We're talking in 10 to 15 years, the world of transportation, the world of driving will not be the same. They figured out today that machine can drive better than people, that we just cause the mess and the traffic jams and the accidents. What will happen when you talk about transportation? There was an experiment in Europe, two experiments in Europe, that there was a convoy of trucks that moved across Europe, all connected with Wi-Fi. One driver was in the front, all the rest kept the right distance with a Wi-Fi. What does that mean to the world of global transportation? Where are we going? Can we have autonomous driving delivery to your distribution center during the night without anybody being there? Can we receive the material without any intervention? Can I ship it to my customer without any intervention? So those are the things that we, huge, very big, very interesting. I think that there's a lot of regulation in all this stuff we're talking about. It's not going to happen overnight. So I think as soon as we solve it, as soon as technology evolved, developed, and the regulation are being resolved, life will be different.
Yes. So you got a plane to catch, don't you?
Yeah, just have half an hour.
Half hour. He's flying off to Sydney. So he graciously was panicked down there that we were a little behind. So we're gonna cut you loose. Thanks, Dror.
Thank you.
Really appreciate your coming out.
Thank you very much.